So, another video. And you may well ask, "Oi, Lawrence, shouldn't you be writing?" To which I'd reply, yes. But having just finished my library trilogy, I'm in that phase where writers get to stare at clouds and pretend that they're working, because I'm sort of wondering what to write next. And I did start something, and years ago, when I was writing Red Sister, no, before then, when I was deciding what to write after the Red Queen's War trilogy, I wrote a few chapters of something that I called Jacob's Ladder and showed it to my agent. He said, "That's nice. What else have you got?" And so I wrote Red Sister instead. And I came back to that Jacob's Ladder thing. Here it is on Wattpad. Wattpad, free stories from loads of different authors. You can go and look at my stuff there. I've got, look, 2,900 followers, which I guess is more than I have on YouTube. But then I've only been on YouTube for a month, and I've been here for years. I think Wattpad's pretty dead as a platform, but I do have a bunch of stuff on there. I've got Jacob's Ladder, and you can go and read the however many chapters I've got there. 7 chapters. Yeah, so I had 6 chapters written already back in 2017 or whenever, and I recently added a 7th one before I decided that no, I'm not going to write any more of that. It's a great idea, I think, but not a wonderful character, and it just didn't have the legs for a whole book. Maybe a novella, or something of that ilk. Anyway, so yeah, and there's Blood of the Red, a book I wrote back in well before Prince of Thorns, and Gun Law, a book I wrote immediately after Prince of Thorns. So there's some good stuff there that you could go and read for free should you wish to. But yes, I'm noodling and wasting time and waiting for inspiration to strike. And currently I've got a good idea, but I'm in that phase where I don't want to start typing up in case it all dissolves under my fingers, but I will soon. So this video about money. People always seem to be fascinated by how much authors are paid, and when you tell them, it's very hard to actually focus them on the mechanics and the periods involved. So I did a YouTube video on advances, and was trying to explain there that, when people talk about 6-figure advances, yes, 6 figures can be, well, has to be more than $100,000, and can be a lot more than that, but it's spread out over however long it takes you to write those books that you've been contracted to. But no matter what words you put before people, it seems that the headline figure, the $100,000, is like, you can imagine it there in neon red lights pulsing away in front of them, and whatever you're saying, they're just going, 100,000, that's a lot of money. Yes, it's a lot of money, but it's got to last you for a bare minimum of 3 years, and if you don't produce a book a year, then it's spread out even more. But we'll talk about that here. So I've done the blog on advances, and the takeaway point from that is essentially that for the significant majority of authors, the advance is all they'll ever be paid. So you can take it as their salary. There will be authors, and I'm one of them, who tend to earn out their advances and get more money coming in after that. But in the majority, people don't tend to earn out their advances, and so that headline figure is just the money they get. So I put out a call for this information because I don't particularly want to lay out my personal finances in great detail. I put a call out for other people to do that, but anonymously. So I've got a significant number of authors who emailed me with their information, telling me what the size of their advance was and when they had it and for how many books were involved. And I've plotted that information on a chart below, and if any other authors send me their information, I'll add it to that. So let's just look at the graphic and see what I've got there at the moment. It's there. I'll just pop to it in slightly larger scale. See if I can move my let's see if I can reduce the size of me so we can actually see what we're dealing with here. So we've got here advance per book. So this isn't the total advance. This is the total advance divided by the number of books that the deal was for. And here we've got the year. So, and the size of the blob is the number of books involved. So a little tiny blob is 1 book, and a big one like this one is 6 books. I've coloured the debuts blue, the non-debuts red, and audio-only deals are in green, and there's 1 game book. So you can see that the vast majority of these deals are under $25,000 per book, which would be, for most of those people, $25,000 per year. A lot of them are under, let's say, $10,000 or $15,000. So that's an annual salary, if you like, of $10,000 or $15,000 for a lot of these people here. And all of these authors, if you are part of the fantasy community online and you're really into your fantasy books, you'll have heard of all of them, and a lot of them you'll have seen their books on shelves in Barnes and Nobles, or if you're in the UK, in Waterstones. These are not people that you would consider hobby writers or amateurs in any way, and yet they basically are hobby writers, because if you're getting $10,000 a year from your book or less, it's got to be a sideshow for you. You've got to have a main income there to survive in this world. So we can see there are some which are 100,000 per book, 75,000 per book, and up this one more than $150,000 per book. But that's the out of all of the information coming in, that was the absolute maximum. And it's, okay, I'm not going to say it's not a lot of money, but we'll look at some comparisons in a minute and we'll see that it's not a vast amount of money. Plus, all of these, because they are the traditional deals, they'll have agents. Those agents will automatically take 15% of any of this money. So you can lower all of these by 15%. That's a healthy wodge of, if you like, tax on top of all of these incomes. So if we move down, I've gone online and just looked up average salaries. This was a list of average salaries for different professions in New York. Obviously, if you're a waiter in New York, you're probably getting paid more than if you're a waiter in some small town in Idaho. But these are certainly real figures from quite recently. And I've gone from waiter to dentist there, and I have plotted those on the same chart that we looked at before, or at least I had intended to. Let me do it now. There we go. So you can see that the vast majority of those authors who wrote in to me are basically getting less than a New York waiter. Let's reduce all of those by 15%, and basically all of those are now less than the New York waiter. And let's consider that that's if they produce a book a year. So if any of them are even a little bit over their deadlines, they're going even lower. These are not these are wages, certainly on the lower half of that one, that are difficult to live on. And that when we go up higher to these figures, these people here, they're all earning less than a teacher. And pretty much everyone on this chart is earning less than your average New York nurse. I'm not saying they should earn more than a nurse. Nurses are wonderful people, highly skilled, but I'm putting it in a context. And every single one of these deals, apart from that one there, is giving an annual salary of considerably less than a New York dentist. So these are not super rich authors. These are just basically people who are working, mixed in with your working population and struggling to earn salaries that pay their mortgage and buy them holidays or whatever. And the point of this is to illustrate to you, because people are always saying, what do authors earn? these are fantasy authors who have volunteered their information. I'm sure there are some who are much higher up this chart, but these are not small names. These are not people you haven't heard of. Many of them have sold a lot of books, and I'm answering your question. This is the state of play. Let's just see what I say at the end of the thing. And the point I make at the end, let's go back here, concerns these green dots. These are fairly new deals and quite sizable ones, and the author involved doesn't have a particularly high profile. So that interested me, that there's a huge move these days towards audio books, and there's considerable growth in that sector. Lots of people are realizing that they can listen to audiobooks while they do other things, and it's a way of consuming fantasy and reading fantasy that is fits in better around people's busy lives. So there's been this growth. In response, the traditional publishers have, certainly the big ones, there's a thing called used to be the big five companies, who their imprints basically covered like 90% of all publishing, and they've been swallowing each other up ever since. So I think this may be big three at the moment, or possibly even going to be the big two. And they have they've closed ranks, and they've said that we're not going to sign contracts with any authors unless they sell us their audio rights as part of the deal. And then when you sign those, that means that the publishing company will automatically take 50% of any revenue you get. So if they, just trying to turn this phone off, if they've given you this $50,000 per book, this $25,000 per book, whatever, they can then take the audio and they can either produce it themselves, or they can sell it to Audible or Recorded Books or some other company that makes an audio, and then it becomes a subcontract, and they automatically take 50% of the money that's generated from that. So the royalties, the advance, whatever, just 50% of it goes straight to the company, and you can't get a deal with a big three publisher or one of their imprints where you don't end up selling them the audio rights under those conditions. So the idea that this author has gone out and done a deal directly with somebody like Audible and been offered $100,000 per book just for the audio rights, or $75,000 per book almost for 6 books, that's a lot of money, and that's quite attractive. But if that guy now wants to, or lady wants to produce a paper copy of the book and an electronic copy of the book, the big publishers won't touch them anymore because they've sold the audio rights. So they will be forced to either go to a very small publisher or to self-publish. But if you're getting those considerable sums for your audiobooks, then that might be an attractive model. And so that may be a direction that the market's heading in, where a lot of traditionally published authors may consider selling their audio rights directly to Audible, for example, getting a large chunk of money, and which they can live on, and then doing something with the paper and the electronic copies off their own back. I think something probably needs to change in the way audio rights are dealt with. Yeah, that's the end of it. I will leave things there and see if I can bring this in under 20 minutes, which I'm not very good at. Okay, thanks for listening.